Best story: Boeing 737 MAX blowout. The scandal behind Alaska Airlines Flight 1282. The world watched in horror as news of Alaska Airlines Flight 1282 spread like wildfire. A seemingly routine flight turned into a nightmare at 16,000 feet when a section of the fuselage of the Boeing 737 MAX 9 blew out, exposing passengers to the harsh elements of the sky. Oxygen masks dangled, alarms blared, and for a brief moment, chaos reigned. Miraculously, the pilots managed to bring the plane down safely, with no fatalities. But as investigations began, it became clear that this was no accident. It was the result of corporate greed, negligence, and a failure to learn from the past. On a chilly January evening, Alaska Airlines Flight 1282 took off from Portland International Airport, bound for California. Among the passengers were business travelers, families, and students eager to return to their routines. The takeoff was smooth, and the passengers settled in for what should have been a short, uneventful flight. But just minutes after takeoff, a terrifying bang reverberated through the aircraft. A loud whooshing noise filled the cabin as a portion of the plane's fuselage near the rear exit door suddenly detached. The violent decompression pulled air out of the cabin, sending loose items flying and exposing passengers to the bitter cold of high altitude. Screams filled the air and oxygen masks deployed as flight attendants fought to maintain calm. Captain Michael Reynolds and First Officer Sarah Whitmore had trained for emergencies, but nothing could prepare them for this. Relying on their instincts, they immediately declared an emergency and initiated an emergency descent. Despite the harrowing situation, the crew's quick response saved lives. Within 20 minutes, Flight 1282 made an emergency landing back at Portland. Miraculously, everyone survived, though some suffered injuries from flying debris and the intense pressure change. The world breathed a sigh of relief, but beneath the surface, a scandal was about to unfold. As the Federal Aviation Administration, FAA, and National Transportation Safety Board, NTSB, launched their investigations, disturbing facts emerged. The Boeing 737 MAX 9 model had already been under scrutiny after previous incidents, including the two fatal crashes of the MAX 8 in 2018 and 2019. When investigators examined the fuselage plug that had blown out, they discovered missing bolts, an egregious oversight in manufacturing. Further digging revealed a chilling truth. Boeing had rushed production, pressured engineers to meet tight deadlines, and cut corners to maximize profits. Safety checks were minimized, and whistleblowers had been ignored. One such whistleblower was David Collins, a former Boeing engineer. He had repeatedly warned his supervisors about structural weaknesses in the fuselage and the improper installation of certain components. His concerns were brushed aside, labeled as overly cautious. The company is more focused on meeting deadlines than ensuring safety, Collins had told a friend months before the incident. Now, as the world reeled from yet another Boeing crisis, the truth could no longer be hidden. The scandal rocked the aviation industry. Boeing stock plummeted, airlines grounded their MAX 9 fleets, and passengers worldwide questioned the safety of flying. The U.S. government launched hearings, grilling Boeing executives on their negligence. Families of passengers on Flight 1282 filed lawsuits, demanding accountability. Media outlets unearthed shocking emails showing Boeing executives pushing to cut costs even at the expense of safety. The company issued apologies, but for many, words meant nothing without action. One voice stood out among the outrage: Lisa Monroe, a mother of two who had been on Flight 1282 with her children. In a televised interview, she fought back tears as she recalled the terror of the blowout. "My kids looked at me, and I could see the fear in their eyes. I thought that was it. We were going to die," she said. And all of it, could have been prevented if Boeing had just done their job properly. Her words resonated with millions. The scandal was no longer about a single flight. It was about a broken system that valued profit over human lives. As Boeing faced lawsuits, government scrutiny, and public distrust, a question loomed. Would they change? For decades, the aviation industry had learned from past mistakes. Every crash, every failure led to improvements. But corporate greed had a way of making people forget hard-learned lessons. This time, however, the world refused to let that happen. Regulators tightened oversight, engineers demanded better working conditions, and airlines put pressure on Boeing to improve quality control. Pilots and flight attendants, who had long voiced concerns about safety, were finally heard. But the most important lesson wasn't just for Boeing, it was for everyone. Moral of the story: greed and negligence may bring short-term gains, but they lead to long-term disaster. Cutting corners and ignoring warnings will always come back to haunt those who refuse to listen. True success comes from integrity, responsibility, and a commitment to safety. As passengers boarded their flights in the months and years following Flight 1282, they did so with the hope that the tragedy had led to change. And perhaps, in the end, that change would save countless lives.